Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast. I'm Chris Larsen. He's Al Escobedo. And today we're going to talk about something that's really, I think, popular and near and dear to a lot of people's heart, because I think at our core, ice fishing people basically just love gear, and it gives them an excuse to buy more and different stuff. Correct?
Amen to that, and guilty as charged.
I think they just like, hey, here's a reason to go buy some stuff. And every year you walk around the St. Paul Ice Show, or every year you walk into your favorite ice fishing retailer, and what do you see are tons of plastics, tons of different jigs. They all come in different sizes, different shapes, and different colors. And we're talking color today. So the next time you're out and about and you're looking to buy some stuff, what color should I buy?
There's so many different options out there, and there's so many different applications for all the different colors. And honestly, I think there's a lot of different colors that work in a lot of different situations. For my full-time career, I work in the archery industry, and one of the biggest things in the archery industry is broadheads. You know, the fixed versus expandable, and this versus that.
Mechanical's way better, right?
This
Everybody
brand versus this brand. Yeah, well, and that's and what I like to tell customers is, in my opinion, the most important thing with a broadhead is personal comfort, or you feel confident, personal confidence in what you're using. So if you have a particular color that you feel that you've used, you've always caught a lot of fish on, I would say that's always a great color, and a great color to start with. Mm-hmm. But we've all had those days when that old trusty color is not working, and there's some guidelines and things that you can do that kind of help you start selecting the right colors. Now, that's going to come down to, sunlight, cloud, water clarity, depths. When you start talking about like deeper water, darker water, generally speaking, you're going to be using, stuff that you can depending on what you're fishing for, but you want to get some visual aesthetics out there. In the deeper water, I like to make sure something's going to glow. Mm-hmm. Your dark water, you're going to use your metallic colors, get some flash in there, glow colors, bright colors, so them fish can really see it. Especially if you're fishing panfish, they feed off of sight. They want to see that bait. You want to use those bright colors. Other than that, you get onto a lake that's got clear water, you're going to use more of your natural colors, your darker colors, keeping that presentation to what's living in that lake, where you don't need that bright visibility to call that fish from a long ways off. But then again, there are some cases where those bright colors work. I'm going to be quite honest with you. There's a color I have on one of my rods for crappies that I will literally fish every single lake with that particular color, that particular jig. No
Are you
matter
going to let
what.
us know what it is?
It is a pink jig, but it's just a confidence color. Like I said, it's a bait that I'm always confident in, and I've caught fish in every different circumstance, dirty water, clear water. But there are those cases where you get into those fish that are a little bit more picky, and that's when you need to have those options. I currently right now have too many options in my jig box, but the couple of recommendations that I would make based off of what my experiences are, I'd like to keep it, I have all the different colors, but I keep it pretty simple as far as what I use. I use a lot of gold, white, black, red, pink. Those are my main colors. I have obviously browns and greens. I know a lot of guys use those chartreuse, but these are really the main ones to me that I cover all my bases. I got my gold, giving me that metallic flash. I also have silvers and stuff like that, where sometimes, you just might want something a little bit more brighter of a flash. Mm-hmm. Very rarely, almost always a gold. And then you got your black, dark water. It's going to give you your most natural presentation. And then a lot of the time, the coloring will come with the plastics as well. That's another thing to talk about. It's basically the same basis. Clear water, you want those natural presentations. Dark water, you want the color. And then you can get into, like you said previous, there's a whole another avenues that I'm sure we'll talk about on additional podcast episodes. But you got your white, that's going to be kind of your middle ground, kind of a naturalish color, especially a lot of your fish are feeding up. They're looking at a white ice base. But you can also use that in dark water because it just really gives you that background. It really pops. And then you got the pink. That's just going to give you your bright color. It's also a glow. It's a UV brightened color. That's one thing I'll talk about is the UV brighteners. I am a firm believer in the UV brighteners. I think in my experience, I feel like the fish can see them a lot better when you're using a jig that has the UV brighteners. In the panfish world particularly, again, that's mainly what I fish through the ice. That's what I spend most of the time fishing through the ice. So I feel like when it comes to selecting the colors, you gotta, if you're trying to keep it minimal, like I said, get a gold, a black, a white, a bright color with UV brighteners, and then another natural color. And that's really all you would need to get started. And then you can get a couple of each different size and start playing with the size game. But I think if you start with that, that'll get you a really good basis. And then you can kind of narrow down. Like I got one buddy that fishes chartreuse almost exclusively for crappies while I'm using the pink. And there's times where he'll be doing a little bit better than me and I'll be doing a little better than him, but we tend to do pretty similar on the results. It's more cadence of your jigging and the size and the plastic you're using, the color of the plastic and those sorts of things.
I think that's something that we definitely need to talk about, and it's something that I also work in the Great Lakes trolling world, and there's a guy on there that does a lot of educational stuff, and he has what he calls his 8 steps to catching fish. And he goes, no matter where I go, the first question, or maybe the most popular question I get is, what's the best color? And he's like, everyone's worried about color. And he goes, out of my 8 steps, color is the 8th. He's like, there's so many things that are more important than color. And if you've got something close, you're probably going to be in that neighborhood. But he's like, worry about profile, worry about size, worry about being in the right spot, worry about having the right cadence, worry about all those things first. And then if you're still not catching them, then we're going to talk about color. But we like to talk about color because it's fun and it's easier to go buy something than it is to get better at fishing. So that's what we talk about, color.
100%. 100%. I mean, people have been saying it for years. The lures are made to catch the fishermen, not the fish. And I think that statement, there's some trueness to it. But I mean, with the artwork that some of these custom jig makers are doing, and even some of these, big conglomerate, Clam and all these other bigger companies are making all these different jigs, and a lot of them are really cool and fun to look at. So it's hard to not focus on color is a great option.
I've seen your jig collection. You're definitely you're just buying art at this point. Like you don't need any more, but you just can't help yourself.
Yep, I'm to the point where basically, like I said, when it comes to fishing, I buy my main colors, but then if I see something that's really cool that I don't have in the collection, I add it to the collection. Now, there are cases where, I bought this one jig and I've never fished with it. It's really cool looking. I'd hate to lose it, but I got to try it. So sometimes I'll mess around with them, but a lot of it's more for just my cosmetics. And there's definitely been days where it's like, I wonder if I should just take all these and paint them to where I'm going to use them all and be practical about it. And then I think, no, we need to order a few more.
Yeah. So, I used to work in construction, and I would always say, if you can't fix with a hammer, you can't fix it. To me, when you're fishing, if you can't catch it on gold, you can't catch it. So I'm with you that if you're only going to buy one color of something, for me it would be gold. But I really, especially in clear water, I really like black. I really like purple. Purple is probably my pink for you. I really like purple in clear water. The other thing that's one of my favorite colors for clear water is what I don't know what they call it. I call it Dr. Pepper. And it's basically the same color as a Dr. Pepper can. It's like
It's your motor oil.
dark
In most
maroon.
cases, most that's where things get a little tricky because a lot of these companies use similar terms and their colors are so different. But generally speaking, I would guess it's probably like a motor oil color.
I call it Dr. Pepper because it's the color of Dr. And a lot of times there'll be little, they'll put white eyes or something on it too. So it literally looks like a Dr. Pepper can. And this kind of gets me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is color combinations. The other thing that everybody loves, and I saw, and I'm sure you saw at the show this past year too, is there's guys walking around in Wonder Bread bodysuits. Like Wonder Bread is always super popular, white with yellow and red dots on them and like those contrasts. So when you're going out and you're a guy who likes to fish with plastics, so when you're putting plastics on your jigs, I'm sure you're thinking profile, but if you, let's say you've got a black jig head and you're going to put plastic on it, what color plastic are you going to put on that?
It's going to be similar to the breaking down of the color that you're selecting for the lake. It's generally going to start with based off of the water clarity. For me, I use plastics pretty similar colors as my jig selection. White and black are probably my two go-tos as far as consistency. Red's another real common one. Purple is another real common one. I know you said you like that. I like that with my pink a lot for crappies in a lot of different situations. It's again, when you're talking about plastics, I think color, especially if you got a decent color on the head, then I think the color matters even less. I think it becomes more of a profile and matching what they're eating at that point. But as an ice fisherman and as a human, we want it to look good going down. So a lot of the times, guys are picking just what looks cool versus looking at the different colors of the lake water and stuff like that. And, you talk about the sun. If early ice is when that really matters, when you're talking about the cloudy days and sunny days, or if you're fishing in really shallow water, you drill a hole and you're opening up a huge beacon of sun in that shallow water. When you're fishing out deeper, it's not going to matter quite as much because you're under and later in the season, they're under a bunch of snow. So it definitely doesn't matter as much when you start doing in those situations. So really you're just focusing on what the bait's looking like as far as what you're utilizing as opposed to really that color.
We've been talking about jig heads, we've been talking about tungsten jigs, we've been talking about plastics. What about hard baits? So, they usually don't sell a hard bait in purple. Like it's usually some sort of bait fish pattern. What are your favorites there?
I like to go with metallic colors in that as well. Generally speaking, golds and silvers mimicking live minnows. Realistically, though, that's mainly, if I'm using a hard bait, that's mainly what I'm using, unless someone else is using something else and just hammering them. But your silver and gold kind of cover both of your bases for your live bait in most lakes, giving you the most flash. And again, for me personally, in most cases when I'm using that hard bait, it's more of an attractant, and I don't know. It's something I have not mastered yet. I mean, I've caught plenty of fish on them, but it's not something I tend to catch a lot more on either the dead stick or the tip up or whatever. And this is just more my call.
Gotcha. Anything else you can think of?
No, I mean, I guess the only thing I would say when it comes to color too is don't be afraid to try different combinations. Just because what we said here today, or just because you get online and you hear clear water, natural baits, or dark water, you're having a rough go of it. Try something totally different, something off the wall. you never know what could work.
Yep, for sure. And I've seen it happen many times, and I'm sure you have too, where you're like, I don't know why we're catching fish in this, but we are.
Exactly.
All right, thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll talk to you next time.